Poetry Center, bringing poetry to Paterson since 1980 at Passaic County Community College.
So we're going to start the open reading today with Joe Giacovino.
Hey folks, how's everybody doing?
Great.
I have a poem about depression. And it's not that I'm depressed. It's a poem about the depression, the financial one that we're going through right now. It is a depression, much as the one that happened back in the late 20s and early 30s. But they have put enough spin on it so that it doesn't actually seem to be that bad. And the depression had taken the wealth of a certain percentage of the people and put it into the hands of even less people in the late 30s and 40s, late 20s and 30s. It's happened again. Anyway, this one's called the Dollar Bill Blues. It's a song. I'm just going to recite the words as a poem. The dollar bill fell like a coin in a well, 'cause jobs went overseas, brought us down to our knees. And I heard someone scream that the American dream was co-opted, and it had been subtitled in Chinese. Then an idea was born about healthcare reform, using mirrors and smoke. But you see, it's a joke, 'cause ain't no doc gonna be giving up the high life he's been living until every one of us is dead or just permanently broke. One of the saddest things I ever saw was a grandma holding a sign that said, "Please stop the war." But wars are being planned out years in advance. Doesn't give stopping one of them much of a chance. Let me just take a sip of water right here. We bailed out the banks, and the bankers gave thanks by handing out praises. Then they handed each other huge raises, because the corporation's too rich and the government is its bitch, and you can't expect to have changed from an entity that nothing ever phases. One of the saddest things I ever saw was a grandma holding a sign that said, "Please feed the poor." But the crops are used for ethanol, feeding pigs and cattle, so it doesn't give the fight against hunger, make it an easily winnable battle. I forgot the middle verse, so I'm just going to end it there. Thanks.
It'll come to you. Just wait a minute. Well, you can do it again, okay? If it comes to you. Write it down. Bob Rosenblum.
This is a poem about adult onset diabetes, which frequently gets to be the star of a lot of evening news segments. My pancreas. My pancreas with its lazy insulin will show up late to the job site, unable to unlock gates to the body's cells, drag sugar into darkened alleys of striated muscle, impulsive, predatory, rapacious. The sugar just sits drenched in pools of blood. It's no longer benign. It's as if my pancreas is a cement mixer on the fritz that coughed up a batch of loose sidewalk. Street signs and lampposts slide away. Hydrants lean like the Tower of Pisa.
Deborah Garish.
I had taken a workshop with Alicia Ostriker a few months ago, and she takes biblical stories and you rewrite them from another point of view, and I believe it was called Midrash. So I focused on Adam and Eve, and this is what I had written. Eve, thought I was not ashamed to say I'm woman, the very bone, flesh of Adam. But apples multiply before my eyes. As I slowly chew, the chunky pulp rolls wisely off my tongue. Sweet juices seep from the creases of my smile, turned inside out. Now, fig leaves loom on trees outside the gate. The royal key no longer fits. Thought I was the apple of your eye.
Sheila Hughes.
Hi, how you doing? Fine. It's fine, it's good.
Ed Lippener.
This poem is called Winter's Watch, and if anyone was here this time last month, it was a day that harkens back to that day. Brutal winds lash fitful gusts against stone monument, noble edifice. Like a lighthouse, I maintain the vigil, watching leaden sky, anxiously awaiting the snow. To fill the void, mute the noise, prolong my solitude beyond sleep's brief refuge. I awaken early, peer out, hoping for a landscape in the throes of transformation. But the storms veered out to sea, departed prematurely. The few reluctant flakes relinquished merely traced the periphery. Its fury depleted on distant waves heaving, indifferent to the embrace. The full splendor I am again denied lies beneath, under the mounting drifts. Thank you.
Ellen Rowe. Did you hail them?
Yeah. This is one of my old ones that goes back to Park Ave, Paterson in 1979. Assault on my husband. Swing the jack, slash the back. Blood, over floors, over walls. Wah, 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 wah. Okay, who called? What's happening? What's happening? Who called? Finally, the cool, calm, choral dawn dawns, placating my shattered spirit.
Diane Corey. Is there somebody coming? I have my eyes in the back of my head. Yep.
Maybe in my next life. He mistook me for a free spirit, light and carried about by a breeze, here to enjoy a moment, then gone with a smile. But I was dark and heavy and slow, not flicked away by a breeze. I lingered in hidden corners until he followed, drawn by eyes that signaled, "Come, there's more." He stayed, forgot the breeze, grew dark and heavy and slow, became like me. I wish I were a free spirit, light and carried about by a breeze.
Debbie Brielle.
This is called Impenetrable Darkness. Sometimes my brain rages on, seething with waves of thoughts, uninterrupted, unstoppable, spewing forth faster than my lips or pen, going full bore on and on. No refueling needed here, inexhaustible. Then at other times, I can't put two thoughts together. The lips are silent, the pen won't move. It's not at rest, it just isn't. Blank, unseeing, unfeeling, flat, not able to experience, not capable of expressing, colorless. The absence of light, sound, feeling, knowing, as if a switch has been turned off and no electrons can flow, as if the well is dry and the pump has burned out. My pen is out of gas. My mouth is dry. The air in my lungs is turgid, tasteless. As it flows past my lips, nothing. If I were in a cave, deep and dark, I could hear water dripping, the fluid that eroded the limestone walls to create the cavern. And a glimmer of light would follow me, and the sound of my footsteps would continue to echo through the dungeon, and the mossy walls would feel wet, cold, almost soft, and the texture would tingle my fingertips. And if I was in a thick, thick fog, the moist air would dampen my hair, wet my face. I could taste the humidity in my breath and feel the enclosing cloud enveloping me. But there is no cave, no fog. There is only emptiness and the absence of light and the instability of not feeling. I hold my breath to keep it part of me, but I can only hold it for so long until it bursts away and I inhale another gasp of tasteless air, to be heated by my heartbeats and to try and refuel.
Francis Lombardi.
This is called Alibis. Started as the germ of a short story and then kind of transformed itself into a poem. She just couldn't leave him, no matter how many times she tried. She'd begin packing like Nora in a doll's house, and then shortly before she was due to pick up the children at school, she put all her clothes away. She often imagined how it would be if she never had to see him again, never again to pretend that another person had gotten into his skin when he struck her, or to hide the bruises that she had come to expect. She couldn't leave him because he had become like the father she vaguely remembered, who used to hold her and kiss her forehead. There was no one else who loved her as much, regardless of how imperfect their love was. She just couldn't let it go. Besides, he was basically a good man and had never struck the children. If she left, she'd be taking them away from their father and their home. She could handle the pain, but it was the shame that reduced her. She knew that with each assault, she was disappearing, and that one day, when he touched her again, she would probably turn to ash.
Janet Ulrich.
This is a lament I recently wrote for my mother, who used to attend all of these readings with me.
You're very soft-spoken.
Okay. And it's entitled Farewell. You are afraid to die as I'm afraid to live, resting in lasting peace when I can barely sleep, for all I do is weep, crying for dreams gone by. Why did you have to die before I said goodbye? And I just want to, thank you. I just want to let everybody know about a reading. I'm co-hosting a reading with Dick Vernon at the Englewood Library on the 4th Tuesday of this month. And it's mainly an Irish-Italian celebration because of St. Joseph and St. Patrick. And the features are Joey Giacovino, who's in the audience here, Fausta Weir, Mary Walsh, and myself. And it starts at 8 o'clock Tuesday of this month, and okay, hope you can join us. Thank you.
Angeline Montalban.
Okay, this poem I'm about to read, it's really about an observation that I made one early morning when I was at Starbucks. On being kicked out of Starbucks 2 o'clock in the morning. The barista walked up to her and timidly yelled, "This is the second time I'm telling you, you can't do this in here. The next time, you got to leave." She ignores him and falls asleep again. And with her burnt red hair, she could pass for an older Red Riding Hood. He walks up to her again. "You have to leave." "But I'm not doing anything wrong." "I'm telling you, you have to leave." "I'm not doing anything wrong. If you don't leave in 5 minutes, I'm calling the police. I'm sitting here like everybody else. You can't kick me out of here. I'm like everybody else. I don't care if you call the police." A little more than 15 minutes, 2 New York City officers walk in. The barista pointed out to the woman. She murmurs, "I'm not doing anything wrong, just sitting here like everybody else." "Ma'am, you gotta leave. They don't want you in here. You'll have to leave this place. You've gotta go. This is not the first time that we are going through this with you. Get your stuff and leave." "But this is not fair. This is not fair. Just get out all your belongings and leave. They do not want you in here." The limit, it's only one poem that you could read? Is it one poem? That's it?
Yeah, well, you can do another one since we have a few minutes.
Oh, okay. Just one last one.
I don't want to make everybody else annoyed at me, but go ahead.
Today I went out to the woods, but there weren't any trees, only a leaf. And I thought, how spare is the scenery? I was afraid, but I fought back, persistent. I fought like them old revolutionary mothers who raised band of children on minimum wage salaries. I wanted it to be over, the pain, the memory of what is no longer, but I was alone in the woods without trees, far from the death of the human race.
Joey, do you remember your lines?
Yes, I do.
Okay, honey, come and do it again. I think it's so hard
Just
to
that-
forget like that.
You know, it's because I don't
happens.
have my guitar. You know, if I had the guitar, I'd be like, okay, yeah, it was just, you know, when it's a song.
Pretend.
But yeah, I know. It was just do the missing line. Thank you.
You can do it from the beginning if you
All right.
want.
I'll try it again from the top. The dollar bill fell like a coin in a well because jobs went overseas, brought us down to our knees. And I heard someone scream that the American dream was co-opted and it had been subtitled in Chinese. That's, by the way, is the subtitle of the song is subtitled in Chinese. Then an idea was born about healthcare reform, using mirrors and smoke, but you see it's a joke, because no doc's going to be giving up the high life he's been living, unless every one of us is dead or just permanently broke. One of the saddest things I ever saw was a grandma holding a sign that said, "Please stop the war," but the wars are planned out years in advance. It doesn't give stopping one of them much of a chance. The economy sank like a stone in a tank because we'd forgotten a lesson learned in the Great Depression. We forgot Geneva Convention inside Guantanamo detention. When you forget the past, then the future's just guessing. One of the saddest things I ever saw was a grandma holding a sign that said, "Please feed the poor." But the crops are used for biofuels, and feeding pigs and cattle doesn't make the fight against hunger an easily winnable battle. We bailed out the banks, and the bankers gave thanks by handing out praises, and they gave each other huge raises because the corporation's a tool and the government is its fool. You can't expect much from an entity that nothing ever phases. One of the saddest things I ever saw was a grandma holding a sign that said, "Please find a cure for poverty and homelessness and depression and disease." I think my own death certificate will be subtitled in Chinese.